Hey, quants, let's go ahead and take a look at the charts and see what's cooking today. I believe it looks like we're getting some kind of a breakout. And so I did not look at the charts this morning as per usual. Usually the first time I'm looking at the charts in the morning, most of the time. When I'm recording a video is while I'm recording the video, so everybody gets to see my reaction to the price charts while they may or may not have also reacted to the charts already. So pretty soon we're going to have that new moon. The new moon is coming on this date. What day was that? I have the date on there. It's hard to see. Yeah, I think it's the 19th. And so it will, I want to silence things so I'm not getting interrupted. Well, let's just keep going. So yeah, so right now, we have that square of 9 breakout. And so I'll get into that detail a little bit more. I feel like I need to do a little bit more research before I can actually be able to explain it. But one thing I will talk about is the retrograde stuff, because I don't feel like I was missing a particular word when I was saying that the other day. And so I think it's very simple to understand, but or to state, and I just was losing my words when I was trying to explain it the other day. So for now, let's go ahead and just looking at the price action right here for the master strategy. We had the 821 cross. There was not much going on in terms of Gann swing until today. Today we got the break above the previous pivot high on the 2-day swing indicator. So if on the the 2-bar swing indicator, and so if that, which tends to be a 2-day since I'm on the daily chart, but either way, if that holds, then that would be a potential entry signal. Now, the interesting part about that is all the correlation with these dates coming up. So we have the new moon, which I mentioned, which typically is bearish. We have the FOMC rate discussion coming up, which I mean, that's a news event, right? So somebody's going to know about that, and they're probably going to trade it, but we're not going to know what that is until the day of, and we'll see a ton of volatility on that. And so it's definitely a catalyst, but not something that I use to, or feel like you can use until the rate discussions come out about predictions. And a lot of times, depending on the side of the market, it may cause the markets to go in an unintuitive way until people dig in and do further analysis of that. So the next thing is the astrological event of Mercury moving into retrograde. And so the simple word that I was looking for is the optical illusion. And so when you have things in retrograde, you have the optical illusion of the planet moving in reverse direction. When you have it in direct, that's the illusion of it moving in the forward direction. And so the astrological significance of that is that when things are in retrograde, it tends to be a more negative sign, and when things are in direct, it tends to be more of a positive sign, right? And so I will continue to do more analysis on that, because again, I'm still learning a lot of this stuff, and I'm relatively new to that as well. So that's with Mercury in particular. I don't know. I haven't done the research on all the retrograde and direct positions of all the planets, but I'm quite sure that they all have their own significance. And even though I said direct is positive and retrograde tends to be less positive or more negative, then that doesn't mean that we should just transpose that same discussion, that same definition on all the other planets. So I might make that mistake in the future, but I'm going to go ahead and try to remember to look at that in context of which planets we're talking about at the time. And so then the other thing that's coming up, which in my opinion is the biggest event or the biggest catalyst for anything to occur, is the equinox event, right? And so in the context of Gann, that's one of the 4 pivotal dates that he would look at for either a continuation of the trend or a reversal of the trend. And I've been posting on Twitter the statistics that I've been uncovering for that, if we're expecting to see a continuation or a reversal. And so in this context, since the macro trend is down, a continuation would be down and a reversal would be up, right? So people going long. And so in the context of midterm years, it tends to work out, whether it's a midterm year or not, it does usually make for a good trade opportunity to the long side. However, that tends to be a short-term trade in the context of the midterm years with the elections coming up, meaning that you might hold that position for a few days or a few weeks, but you're not holding that. But that's not a monthly position that we're holding because typically you will get lower prices before July and September, which is when you would then want to be potentially taking more macro long-term positions. And to be fair, that all lines up with the 4-year Bitcoin cycle, and it also lines up with the midterm cycle. So all those narratives tend to align well. So if we continue to get some upside, I have the target up here that I put based on the square of 9 stuff. And so looking for something between 78,000 to 80,000 would be reasonable because it's crypto. I mean, I mentioned this before, I would still love to see a nice touch of the 200 and maybe even the 200 up here. I realize that those are very high up at this point. However, it's crypto. So I wouldn't say hold on to all your money expecting that because you will probably lose if you do that. However, I don't think it's unreasonable to expect some play in this range before it dies out if it's going to die out, right? That's it for Bitcoin. Let's go ahead and move on. I did get something of a trade signal on, I'm going to look at some of these other ones later, but not on chart, that gold looked like it was hitting a target, a potential sell target. It looks like it hit it, but it bounced off. So I'm waiting for a close of this position, but it did close below. That's the 1 bar swing indicator. Yeah, I have some signals here just set that if it triggers below there, I'm looking for some more bullish or more bearish action because it's kind of falling back into this below this range here. And I'm not doing any 50% here, but just eyeballing it, it looks like between here and here is pretty close to the 50%. So it looks like it might be falling below the 50% from a Gann perspective if it gets there. Let's go ahead and jump over to, I did mention this before, and so I'll just mention it again. However, these oscillators have reset to the downside, and so I also would not be surprised at this point to see this be a reset and more momentum moving up to the upside. If you're doing Gann swing trading, waiting to get this 2-bar swing, the 2-bar swing is a long way away. And so if you're trying to do short-term trading, I would use a 1-bar swing, or I might try to do something altogether. This chart is very messy where it is right now from my perspective because you have a long way to go before you get confirmation of continuation. And so there's a lot of things to consider before I would want to take a position if it was just going above the 2-bar swing. And I would want to take a look at some other things, you know, beyond just that particular signal. So, however, that doesn't mean you can't keep going. So let's take a look at silver real quick. So silver, again, yeah, very muddy here. It's just kind of banging around in the range here. So yeah, this is just a do nothing at this point for me. Just kind of waiting and seeing how this plays out. And so nothing more to say there. That's going to be it for today. Getting back to building. That's will be a wrap. All right. Peace, quants.